Before the story starts, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
David was a quiet man. He liked peace. He liked silence. And most of all, he liked being left alone. He lived near the edge of a clean, planned neighborhood controlled by a strict HOA. The homes were expensive. The lawns were perfect. Every fence looked the same. Every mailbox followed the rules. But David did not live inside the HOA. His house sat just outside the boundary line, near a small private dam he had built years ago on his land. That dam was not big. It was not fancy. But it was strong. And it was important. The dam controlled rainwater coming from the hills. Without it, all that water would rush downhill, straight into the HOA neighborhood. Most people in the HOA did not even know the dam existed. David did. He maintained it every year. He checked it before storms. He repaired small cracks himself. He never asked anyone for money. He never asked for thanks. One quiet Monday morning, David was drinking coffee when he heard the sound of a car stopping outside his house. An envelope was placed in his mailbox. That envelope changed everything. David opened the letter slowly. Big bold words stared at him. Unpaid HOA dues, final notice. His eyebrows tightened. He read it again. Then again. The letter said he owed money to the HOA. It warned of legal action if he did not pay within 10 days. David laughed quietly. This must be a mistake, he said to himself. He did not live in the HOA. He never signed any HOA papers. He owed nothing. But the tone of the letter bothered him. It was rude. Cold. Threatening. David decided to handle it calmly. The next day, he drove to the HOA office. The HOA building was clean and modern. The grass outside was perfectly cut. A large sign read, HOA Management Office Rules Create Order. David walked inside. Behind the desk sat a woman in her late 40s. Perfect hair. Perfect makeup. Sharp eyes. Her name badge read, Karen HOA President. David greeted her politely. Good morning. I think there's been a mistake, he said. Karen did not smile. She took the letter from his hand and scanned it quickly. You owe dues, she said flatly. David stayed calm. I don't live in the HOA, he replied. My property is outside your area. Karen leaned back in her chair. Our records say otherwise. David frowned. That's not possible. Karen clicked on her computer. Then she said something that made David uneasy. Your land affects our community, she said. So you must pay. David blinked. Affects? He asked. Yes, Karen replied. That dam on your land. It controls water flow for our neighborhood. David felt a chill. So you know about the dam, he said. Karen smiled slightly. We know everything. David took a deep breath. That dam is private, he explained. I built it legally. And it protects your homes. Karen crossed her arms. You are using it to control our environment, she said. That gives us authority. David shook his head. That's not how the law works, he said. Karen leaned forward. You have 10 days to pay, she said. Or we will take action. David's voice stayed calm, but firm. Please listen, he said. If you touch that dam, you will cause flooding. Karen laughed softly. You're exaggerating. No, David replied. I'm warning you. Karen stood up. This meeting is over. David looked at her one last time. I'm not trying to fight, he said. I'm trying to protect people. Karen waved her hand dismissively. Security will walk you out. Outside the office, David felt uneasy. Something was wrong. He went home and walked toward the dam. He inspected it carefully. Everything was stable. But his gut told him trouble was coming. That evening, he called a local engineer friend. "If someone damages that dam," David asked, "what happens?" The engineer paused. "Bad things," he said. "Very bad things." David looked at the sky. Dark clouds were far away, but they were coming. 2 days later, David received another letter. This one was worse. Failure to comply will result in structural intervention. David's hands tightened. Structural intervention? They were planning something. He drove back to the HOA office immediately. Karen was waiting for him. "You can't do this," David said. "That dam is not yours." Karen smiled. "We have contractors ready." David's voice lowered. "You break that dam, and water will break your homes." Karen's eyes hardened. "You don't scare us." David looked around the office. Pictures of perfect houses lined the walls. People smiling. Children playing. They had no idea. David spoke one final time. "I warned you," he said quietly. Karen turned away. As David drove home, rain began to fall lightly. Just a few drops. But the forecast said more was coming. Much more. David stood near the dam that night, listening to the water flow calmly. He placed his hand on the concrete wall. "This is going to end badly," he whispered. The HOA thought they had power. They thought rules mattered more than nature. They were wrong. And soon, they would learn the truth the hard way. David did not sleep that night. Rain tapped softly on his window. Not heavy. Not dangerous. Just enough to make him think. He stood near the window and looked toward the hills. The dam was still holding strong. Water moved slowly, calmly, like it always did. But David knew something the HOA did not. This calm was temporary. Early the next morning, David heard a deep sound. Not thunder. Engines. He stepped outside. In the distance, large trucks were moving toward the dam. David's heart sank. "They're really doing it," he whispered. The HOA trucks rolled in confidently. Bright logos. Clean machines. Workers wearing safety vests stepped out like this was just another normal job. Karen arrived shortly after in her shiny SUV. She looked proud. Confident. Untouchable. David walked toward them quickly. "Stop," he shouted. The workers paused. Karen stepped out of her car slowly. "Good morning, David," she said, smiling. "You can't be here," David said firmly. "This is private land." Karen waved a paper in the air. "We have authorization," she replied. David moved closer to the dam. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "This dam controls all the rainwater from the hills." Karen rolled her eyes. "We checked everything," she said. "You were just being dramatic." David pointed to the concrete wall. "This is not a fence," he said. "This is protection." Karen crossed her arms. "You had your chance to pay," she said. "Now we fixed the problem." David looked at the workers. "Please," he said. "If you break this, people will lose homes." The workers looked unsure. Karen raised her voice. "Do your job." The machine started. Metal hit concrete. Small cracks formed. David felt sick. Water began leaking through tiny lines in the wall. At first, it was just a trickle. Karen noticed it. "See," she said. "Nothing is happening." David shook his head slowly. "That's how it always starts," he replied. The workers kept going. More cracks. More water. The dam groaned under pressure. David backed away. He took out his phone and started recording. "Why are you recording?" Karen snapped. "For when this goes wrong," David said. Karen laughed. You think a little water will scare us? David looked up at the sky. Dark clouds were forming faster now. The wind picked up. The air felt heavy. By noon, a large part of the dam was damaged. Water was flowing freely now. Not fast. Not yet. But uncontrolled. David stood silent. Karen looked satisfied. There, she said. Problem solved. David turned to her. No, he said quietly. Problem created. Karen ignored him and walked back to her car. The workers packed up. No one stayed to watch. David stayed. He always did. That evening, the rain returned. Stronger this time. Water rushed down from the hills, faster than before. David watched the level rise. He made phone calls. He warned emergency services. He warned nearby residents. Most laughed. The HOA said everything is fine, they said. David closed his eyes. They trust the wrong people, he thought. Meanwhile, inside the HOA neighborhood, life continued as normal. Children played outside. Cars lined the streets. Lights glowed warmly inside homes. Karen sat comfortably, drinking tea. She checked her phone. No alerts. No warnings. She smiled. I handled it, she told herself. Outside, rain began pouring harder. Storm drains filled. Water started pooling at the lowest streets. People noticed. But they weren't worried. Yet. Back at the dam, David saw it happening. The damaged wall could not handle the pressure. Water pushed harder. Louder. Faster. The ground shook slightly. David stepped back. This is it, he whispered. A loud crack echoed through the air. Part of the dam collapsed. Water burst through like a wild animal. It rushed downhill with unstoppable force. Straight toward the HOA neighborhood. David dialed emergency services again. It's happening, he said. The flood has started. Down below, people heard the sound. A deep roar. Like a train. Cars began floating. Trash bins tipped over. Water rushed into streets. Someone screamed. Lights flickered. Karen stood up from her couch. What is that noise? She asked. Her phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. Missed calls. Messages. Warnings. Her confident face faded. Outside, water slammed into the first row of houses. Basements filled in minutes. Garages disappeared under muddy water. People ran. People cried. Chaos spread. Karen stepped outside. Water touched her shoes. Then her ankles. Then her knees. Her heart raced. This wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered. Sirens filled the air. Neighbors shouted. Who did this? Someone yelled her name. You did this? Karen froze. For the first time. She felt fear. From higher ground, David watched the disaster unfold. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. He felt heavy. He had warned them. Many times. Nature does not care about rules. Water does not respect authority. And now, the HOA was learning a lesson they would never forget. Nobody slept in the HOA neighborhood that night. Rain fell without mercy. Not fast at first. Not loud. Just steady. Endless. The kind of rain that makes people feel uneasy without knowing why. Inside their warm homes, people trusted the system. They trusted the HOA. They trusted the rules. They should not have. At the lowest street of the neighborhood, water gathered quietly. It filled the gutters. Then the drains. Then the road. No alarms sounded. No warnings came. The water did not rush. It waited. Like it was thinking. Mrs. Allen was the first to notice. She opened her front door to take out the trash. Water touched her feet. She frowned. "That's strange," she said. She looked down the street. Water was everywhere. She closed the door slowly. Fear moved into her chest. 2 houses away, a car alarm started ringing. The car was floating. Not moving fast. Just rocking gently. Like it was breathing. People came outside. Phones in hands. Confused faces. "What shoes?" Someone laughed nervously. "It's just rain," a man said. But his voice shook. The rain grew louder. Water climbed the steps of homes. It slipped under doors. Basements filled without a sound. People did not scream yet. They were still in denial. On higher ground, David stood under a streetlight. Rain soaked his jacket. His phone rang non-stop. Messages. Calls. Voicemails. He answered one. "The water is inside my house," a voice cried. David closed his eyes. "It's moving fast," he said. "Get out now." At the center of the neighborhood, Karen's house stood tall. Expensive. Bright. Proud. Inside, Karen paced back and forth. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. "This is not my fault," she told herself. Another buzz. She picked it up. Her face changed. Outside, the water spoke louder. A loud cracking sound echoed. A garage door collapsed. Water rushed inside. Screams followed. People ran with bags in their hands. Children cried. Dogs barked. Chaos replaced order. Streetlights flickered. Then went dark. Only headlights and phone lights remained. The water reached waist level. Cold. Dirty. Angry. It carried trash, furniture, and broken fences. The perfect neighborhood disappeared. Karen stepped outside. Rain hit her face hard. Water pulled at her legs. She slipped. She fell into the water. For the first time in years, she felt powerless. A neighbor grabbed her arm. "Call for help," he shouted. Karen tried. No signal. Sirens screamed in the distance. Rescue lights reflected off the water. Boats moved through streets that once held cars. Firefighters shouted orders. Move to higher ground. David helped where he could. He guided people. He carried children. He stayed calm. Even now. The rain finally slowed. The water stopped rising. But the damage was done. Homes were destroyed. Memories lost. Lives changed. As morning light appeared, silence took over. Mud covered the streets. Broken dreams floated in pools of water. People stood in shock. Karen sat on a curb, soaked and silent. She looked at the neighborhood. And she knew. This was only the beginning. Morning came slowly. Not with sunshine. Not with birds. It came with silence. The HOA neighborhood looked nothing like before. Streets were covered in mud. Cars sat in strange places. Some were upside down. Some were stuck against houses. Doors were broken. Windows were gone. Lawns were destroyed. The perfect place had become a warning. People walked outside quietly. No one talked much. Faces were blank. Eyes were tired. The water was gone. But the damage stayed. Karen stood in front of her house. The front door hung open. Inside, furniture was ruined. Family pictures were wet and torn. Her expensive carpet was covered in dirt. She stared at it. This was not how things were supposed to be. A group of neighbors gathered near the main road. Someone asked the question everyone was thinking. How did this happen? Another voice answered. The dam. People turned. That dam up the hill, a man said. It was broken. Murmurs spread. Who broke it? Someone asked. Silence followed. David arrived shortly after. He did not speak. He did not point fingers. He just looked. He saw pain. He saw loss. He saw shock. A woman ran toward him. You warned us, she said softly. David nodded. I tried. More people gathered around him. What do we do now? A man asked. David looked toward the hill. First, he said, we tell the truth. News vans arrived before noon. Cameras. Microphones. Reporters asking questions. Was this preventable? One asked. David stood quietly to the side. Karen stood front and center. She forced a calm smile. This was an act of nature, she said. People behind her shook their heads. A reporter held up a phone. Is this your voice? He asked. The video played. I don't care. Tear it down. Karen's face froze. The crowd went silent. The truth had found its voice. Whispers turned into anger. You did this. You ignored warnings. My house is gone because of you. Karen stepped back. Her words failed her. City officials arrived. Engineers inspected the damage. One of them spoke clearly. The dam was private property, he said. Removing it caused uncontrolled flooding. The crowd erupted. Karen's power vanished in seconds. David was asked to speak. He kept it simple. I warned them, he said. Water does not follow rules. That line spread everywhere. Online. On TV. On phones. By evening, legal notices were posted. HOA offices closed. Insurance companies refused payment. The board called emergency meetings. Karen locked herself inside her house. For the first time, no one listened to her. As night fell, neighbors sat together. Sharing food. Sharing stories. Sharing grief. Rules felt small now. Community felt real. David returned to the hill. He stood where the dam once stood. Broken. Silent. He placed a temporary barrier. This can't happen again, he said. The wind moved through the trees. Almost like agreement. The flood had stopped. But another storm had just begun. This storm did not bring rain. It brought papers. One by one, white envelopes appeared on doors. Legal notices. Damage reports. Insurance letters. People opened them with shaking hands. And what they read made everything worse. Insurance companies refused to pay. The reason was clear. Damage caused by human action, not natural disaster. Those words spread fear. People looked toward the HOA office. The doors were locked. The lights were off. Inside the neighborhood, anger grew. Meetings were called. Residents crowded into a small hall. No decorations. No smiles. No rules posted on walls. Only questions. Who approved the dam work? Someone shouted. Silence. Then a quiet voice spoke. Karen. Heads turned. Karen sat alone at the front. She looked tired. Not powerful. Not confident. Just small. She tried to speak. This decision was for the community, she said. Her voice cracked. The room exploded. You ignored warnings. You destroyed our homes. My kids are scared because of you. Karen lowered her head. Lawyers entered the scene. One by one. Residents hired them. City officials hired them. Even former HOA members hired them. The word negligence was everywhere. David received calls too. Lawyers asked him to testify. He agreed. Not for revenge. For truth. In court, experts spoke. Engineers explained. The dam controlled water flow, one said. Removing it guaranteed flooding, said another. Videos were shown. Emails were read. Warnings were proven. Karen's messages were clear. She ignored advice. She rushed decisions. She forced action. The judge listened carefully. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. Karen avoided them. David did not. He spoke simply. I warned them, he said. They chose power over safety. That sentence traveled far. The HOA board collapsed. Members resigned. Funds disappeared. The HOA declared bankruptcy. The neighborhood lost its shield. Homes lost value overnight. People moved away. For sale signs filled the streets. The perfect community was broken. David returned to the hill. Work crews began rebuilding the dam. This time, with permits. With engineers. With respect. Karen's house stood empty. A for sale sign leaned sideways. No rules protected her now. Months had passed since the flood. The neighborhood was quiet now. Too quiet. The streets that once rang with laughter were empty. Houses were abandoned, some with broken windows still open to the wind. The perfectly trimmed lawns were gone, replaced by mud, weeds, and debris. Karen walked slowly down one of the streets. Her shoes sank into wet mud. Her face, once confident, was pale. Her hands trembled. Neighbors stared at her. Not with anger. Not with fear. With silent disappointment. No one wanted to speak. Her power had vanished. Her authority was gone. Meanwhile, David worked near the rebuilt dam. Engineers guided him. Workers reinforced the walls. Every stone and beam was double-checked. David did not rush. He knew one mistake could destroy everything again. As he worked, people from the neighborhood came to help. Not because they had to, but because they understood now. Safety mattered more than rules. Logic mattered more than pride. Karen tried to interfere. She approached David. I want to help, she said. David looked at her quietly. No, he said. This is not about you. This is about everyone. Her shoulders slumped. She finally understood. Her pride had caused disaster. The media had followed the aftermath closely. Headlines screamed. HOA disaster, leadership ignored warnings. Flood destroys perfect neighborhood. Man saves community while HOA collapses. Karen's name was everywhere. Not as a hero. As a warning. The family's estates slowly rebuilt. Some repaired homes. Some moved away. But everyone remembered. David remained a quiet guardian. He rebuilt the dam stronger than before. He ensured water could never destroy the neighborhood again. One evening, after the rain had stopped, David placed a small wooden sign near the dam. It read simply, "Warnings are free. Ignoring them is expensive." Passers-by read it silently. Some nodded. Some frowned. All understood. Karen never returned to her old position. Her reputation was gone. Her authority shattered. She had learned, too late, that pride without understanding leads to disaster. The neighborhood slowly healed. But the story stayed alive. The flood, the destruction, the warnings, they were all reminders that even the strongest rules cannot control nature. That ignoring truth for power is dangerous. And that one quiet man's wisdom can save many lives. Months had passed. The sun shone over the rebuilt neighborhood. The streets were quiet. Some homes were repaired. Some families had moved. Life went on, but the memory of the flood lingered like a shadow. David walked near the dam every morning. He checked the walls. He measured the water. He made sure everything was safe. It had taken months of effort, patience, and care. And still, he remembered the chaos. Karen never returned to the HOA office. Her house was empty. Her pride was gone. She stayed quiet, away from the neighbors, away from attention. Some days she walked past the rebuilt dam. She looked at it silently. The truth weighed heavier than any legal notice ever could. The neighborhood had changed. People no longer argued about rules that did not matter. They respected the land. They respected nature. And most importantly, they respected the warnings of those who knew better. David placed a small sign at the dam's edge. Warnings are free. Ignoring them is expensive. Children read it on their way to school. Adults read it on their morning walks. Everyone paused. Everyone thought. It became more than words. It became a lesson. The HOA, once full of power and pride, had disappeared. Its rules, its letters, its threats all meaningless now. Nature had its own authority. Water did not care about dues. It did not care about names or titles. It only obeyed laws of physics. And when ignored, it punished. David remained calm, quiet, and vigilant. He had learned a truth everyone else now had to learn the hard way. Power without understanding is dangerous. Rules without wisdom are useless. Pride without listening destroys everything. The neighborhood survived. The HOA never recovered. But one lesson remained clear to everyone. Nature speaks. Warnings are given. Ignoring them comes at a price. And at the end of the day, when the sun set behind the hills, David would stand by the dam. Look at the water flowing safely. And whisper softly. I warned them. And the wind seemed to answer. You did.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it.